William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guest can turn the world on with his smile.
And that's the truth.
Yeah, he can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile.
And he's a Mary.
He's what?
He's a Mary.
And he's a Mary, yeah. Thank you for that. So, you know there were 3 deaths. And hopefully that means the end of it. Okay, Mary died this week. But Mike Connors, Mannix.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yesterday.
I heard John Hurt.
Oh, and John Hurt, so 4. And Barbara Hale died this morning. Adela Street from Perry Mason.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. It's been a bad week. Our guest is Omar Narvaez. He is an educator with Lambda Legal, and he's running for District 6 City Council here in Dallas. We're going to talk about some City Council issues to start, but then I don't know if you were paying attention this week, Patty, but a lot of stuff happened. Did you notice?
I did.
Oh, okay, good.
Some very serious stuff.
Some real serious stuff. Although apparently the immigration order has been scaled back slightly this morning, according to the New York Times. But we'll talk about that in a little bit.
The whole thing's a distraction anyway, but we can get to that.
Sure. Omar, why are you running for City Council? Why did you decide to run?
I decided to, well, first of all, thanks everybody for having me on here.
Absolutely.
This is really exciting. It's not my first time on the show, but it's my first time, I think, as a candidate. So,
and I think it's your first time in a new studio.
In the new studio, yes, which I'm loving. This is fantastic and beautiful. Nice upgrade from the old area. But the reason I'm running is that my district, the place where I live, has decided we really need a champion at City Hall, somebody who will fight for the people and fight for what the constituents are actually wanting, the issues that we're being faced with, whether it's housing, fixing our streets, making sure that the quality of life in West Dallas, the Design District, Northwest Dallas, Bachman Lake, Midway Hollow, is equal to that of the rest of the city. And the other reason that we had to do this was that we have somebody who is asleep at the wheel, who is not taking care of business at City Hall on behalf of our community in West Dallas and the rest of District 6. And it's exciting to get to do this, and it's something that I can't say that I always wanted to do, but it was something that after now having served on the Dallas County Schools Board for almost 3 years, the proven track record that we have, that community members, they just kept coming to me and saying, we want you to do what you do there, but you do it for us at City Hall.
Okay, so one big issue that particularly pertains to your district is housing. An awful lot of the older houses in that district, well, in Oak Lawn, several other areas have been torn down too, but in that district there is particularly one tract of housing that affects a very poor segment of our city, and the city is surveying to decide what these people need, something like that. I think what they need is housing.
So in West Dallas we have a lot of different areas that are in need, but one area where the housing is really being affected is Los Altos, which is the next neighborhood behind Trinity Grove. So by Trinity Grove you have La Bajada, and then right next to that you have Los Altos. And in Los Altos we have hundreds of families that the landowner of the property owner has decided to get out of the rental business due to what he said are too stringent code requirements by the city for single-family landowners. So it would actually be cheaper for him to tear the houses down and build new ones than it is to actually bring them up to code. A lot of these homes were built in the 1940s, 1930s, some of them even in the 20s, and believe it or not, some of them are built on top of tree stumps. That's how old they are.
Wow.
Right. No running water. You know, things have been added in.
My first house was on boat arc stumps, and those things held up for about 50 years, but after that they had to be replaced.
Right. At some point, you know, the code just doesn't fit. So these folks we're told that they had 30 days. This was on September 29th, that they had 30 days to get out. That was what they were told. A lot did leave, unfortunately. Fortunately, the community stood up, helped a lot of folks, went to court, and thanks to Judge Ken Mulberg, he put a stay on these folks being moved out. So there's an extension through June 3rd. And that was a big deal that the community really wanted, so that the children of the people living in these homes wouldn't have to be displaced or moved in the middle of the school year, or at the very beginning, because, you know, September 29th, the end of October.
Started school already.
School had just started. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge deal.
June 3rd, 2017.
June 3rd of this year, 2017, is the deadline. There are a lot of community members I do back giving an extension. So an 18-month extension on this deal, so that folks can really figure out what we can do and what can be done. A lot of groups have come in to help step up, to help, like Legal Aid. And then there's this survey that's getting done now by Catholic Charities to find out what the needs are of these folks. And this is what our current council member has requested be done. And unfortunately, I just kind of look at it and say, if you've been representing this area for 6 years, you shouldn't need a survey, a month-long survey, to ask the folks that you're trying to transition out of West Dallas what they need. I can tell you right now, without a survey, they need a place to live. They need money to move.
They need an affordable place
an affordable place to live. Thank you for that. Yes, an affordable place to live within their neighborhood. They don't want to be moved out of West Dallas or to some other area, and that's what we've got to battle against.
And I would think in that neighborhood is another important part of it, because a lot of people live where they work. That area is very accessible to downtown, so it needs to be, for people who work downtown, it needs to be equally accessible to downtown.
Absolutely, because we are dealing with some folks that have lots of need financially, but we also have our medical center is right there next to West Dallas, so for people to be able to get to Parkland, Children's Health, those are probably the two most utilized resources for that area. We also need accessibility to get to DART, so that folks can get to work, get to the other areas of town that they need to get to as well.
I have a place where they could live that would be equally close to downtown and very accessible. The whole Victory area that they're building, there are some lovely new apartments that if the city would like to pay for them to live there.
Well, absolutely. Well, we should have a percentage of affordable housing in every new building that is built, that especially if TIF money is used, there should be a percentage, and it shouldn't be efficiencies. That's what a lot of people don't realize. I happen to live in a complex that was built using some TIF money, and found out that there were certain units that I couldn't rent because I was, I'm privileged to be overqualified financially for those units. And then when I found out, and I had to go and look, and found out that the 20% that are put aside for affordability were all efficiencies.
They gave them the minimal apartment.
Right, the minimal amount of space. I mean, you tell me what 4-member household can move into an efficiency. Right. They can't. Well, legally they can.
Legally they can't.
Because too many people.
Yeah.
So even let's say it was 2 people living in a 350, 400 square foot. I mean, we're talking a hotel room. I mean, I know you can do it if you had to, but we need to give people the actual accessibility to true affordable housing within the city.
I mean, that's a nice transition for somebody coming out of homelessness. These are people who live in a house.
Right.
What are the rents that they're paying? Just
on average, about $400 a month, anywhere from $300 to $600
So those apartments in Victory that start at $2,000 a month?
Probably not going to qualify, and they don't accept vouchers. They don't accept housing vouchers. And, even the new places that have been built in Trinity Grove, Fort Worth Avenue in West Dallas, a 1-bedroom there, and all of those complexes start right around $1,100, $1,200 a month. So and that's a 1-bedroom.
Wow.
So,
And this doesn't just affect the families. This also affects the schools in that community.
Absolutely.
Because schools are given money per student head.
Right.
So you're losing students, then that school is losing money.
Right. If we lose population in that area, then it also affects DISD, Dallas Independent School District, because there's less kids. On September 29th, when the families got that first letter, one of the elementary schools had 100 children unenrolled and moved out of the neighborhood because people didn't know what was going on. They got scared. They left. A lot of these families, some of them are undocumented. So when they get this very legal-looking letter, they will take off because they don't want to be taken away. And we already have stuff happening.
Can you blame them?
Yeah, can you blame them? Especially since September 20th. I mean, no, January 20th. These families took off and left. And what happens is now we have an elementary school, a middle school that are already under-enrolled, which means now they're severely under-enrolled, which at some point, what is DISD going to be forced to do if it's not bringing in the dollars to keep the school open? The school will shut down. They will have to take the vote. We will have to move the kids to another school. Or if it's not that school, it'll be another school to get the neighborhood configured in order to get enough students there. And once the school shuts down, it's very rare for them to reopen and open up a brand new school.
Well, I have something they could do while they temporarily shut some of those schools down. Renovate them.
I think the ISD does have a plan on some of those. I've been looking. The bond money is starting to get used up in certain areas. So, but hopefully in West Dallas, there's a lot of bond money that was voted on by the people, and a lot of it's supposed to be used. One of the big deals that I've been watching very closely is Pinkston High School, LG Pinkston High School, is supposed to be raised and built anew. So we're supposed to get a brand new Pinkston High School, possibly a stadium for the community as well, along with a new K-8 learning center, which would be all fantastic things for this community. And one of the things that I've been proposing with Dallas Independent School District is that LG Pinkston be added an extra magnet to it, and let's do a medical magnet there, because what's literally you can see from Pinkston High School, you can see the entire medical district. We're talking Parkland, Children's, UT Southwestern, the best hospitals in the nation. So why can't our kids be educated and get ready as they go across the street to West Campus to Dallas Community College District to start preparing them for the jobs that can pay them, whether it's to be a nurse, to be a scrub tech, to be a doctor, anything that is in the medical field.
So you want these
get them prepared.
Omar, you want these kids from poor neighborhoods to be doctors instead of orderlies.
Absolutely, they're
just asking.
Every position that we need, and I have the distinct privilege of having a partner who is a registered nurse, and so I know a lot more about what's going on in the medical world. And we have a huge nursing shortage, a crisis shortage in the United States.
Yep.
So there's just somewhere we could start. And let me tell you, when I take him to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, and he starts talking for career day, and he tells them the amount of money they can make, their eyes light up because they've never heard these types of dollars, because they're used to minimum wage, $8, $9, $10 an hour. But when they see somebody, and especially somebody that looks like them, because in West Dallas, our neighborhoods are predominantly Latino, predominantly African American, and to see a Latino person come in, looks like them, and is doing this type of work.
That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, well, thank God they look like him and not like you.
Right. He's in the room laughing, y'all, so
he's here.
And it's not that I want to brush over these issues at all, because they're huge issues.
We can probably just talk about that for an hour easily. They're
huge. But we had a big league week in politics this week.
We did have a big league week with a lot of alternative facts. So I hope we get to the alternative facts now.
Well, alternative facts, I think, was more than a week ago. No, it was last Sunday. It was last Sunday that the alternative facts came out.
Just a week ago.
Yeah. But let's see. Since then, we've discussed or had new issues, immigration policy, a Holocaust statement that didn't include Jews, because a Holocaust denier is the one who wrote that statement for Bush.
Did you hear,
for Trump?
The clarification from Hope Hicks at the White House. She said that they didn't specifically address Jews and the targeting of Jews because they were trying to be inclusive. all the people who died, you know.
Yeah.
But then when she took the time to list all of those groups of people who also died in the Holocaust. She didn't mention gay people.
Yeah, did she mention political enemies?
No, not at all.
That's another group. Anyway, a border tax, a canceled meeting with the president of Mexico over the border tax and building the wall. The idea that millions of people voted illegally and we're going to have an investigation. Is this the first time a president has ever or any politician has ever investigated an election that he won?
Never.
It's never happened before.
It's never
But
happened.
I think we're going to have a lot of nevers.
So
in this administration.
So
we
Omar,
already have. By the hour.
By the hour, a lot of nevers.
Okay, Omar, if you
never
win,
heard of it either.
if you win, will you challenge the election?
I will not be challenging the election. I know when we win, it's going to be because we won and we're going to slam dunk it. So
Just asking. I mean.
And we will win in a bigger way than anybody's ever won. And you can
win
believe
bigly.
me, it'll be bigly win. So
You'll be tired of winning.
We'll be tired of winning. You will be so tired of the way we win.
And not only is he challenging the election that he won, his own daughter was found in this investigation to be registered to vote in 2 different states.
Is that a problem?
Apparently.
This is the problem.
And
I've
did she vote for Clinton in one of them? Because those votes, all 3 million of them went to Clinton. All 3 million illegal votes.
Right, I was going to say, but those were from the legal votes. Right.
Right. But what he clearly doesn't understand, and bless her heart, Kellyanne Conway hasn't taken the time to understand, or she's just faking it, that she really does get this, is that all 50 states have dead people on the voter rolls. All 50 states, because you know what? People died today. We just talked about people who died, and they live somewhere, and they're probably registered to vote.
Right,
so now there's a dead person on their rolls.
We mentioned 4, so that's
there's no way to avoid that.
Right, and there are people who move. And guess what? I can't go into the elections department and say Omar's dead. Take him off the rolls, because Omar's still alive. They have no way of knowing whether I'm lying, what authority I bring to that request to remove somebody from the rolls. So they have to wait. There's a procedure in all 50 states.
How are names purged from voter rolls here in Texas?
They wait until you have not voted in a federal election for the 3rd time.
So that's 12, or that's 6 years.
Yeah,
6 years.
So
Because
if you
every
haven't
2
voted,
years is.
They haven't seen you vote in a federal election in 6 years. They take you off the rolls. And a lot of people get mad because they only vote once every 10 years, and they discover they're not registered, and they have to be re-registered and such. But that's a citizen's responsibility, to keep up with their registration. But there's a procedure in all 50 states that they fall off. They fall off. And if you're an election judge like me, you see it on the rolls, and it says suspense. They're they're on suspension, basically, and they're about to fall off. And so if this voter comes in, you need to tell them,
So at the end of at the end of the 6th year, it says suspense, or at the 8th?
At the 8th. Well, no, at the beginning of the 6th.
Okay.
So,
but
there's a procedure.
But the procedure also is for you as the election judge to produce that you are who you say you are when you walk in.
That's what I was thinking.
By bringing your voter registration card or some other proof, and then the election judge, the clerks that are there, then verify. I voted many times in my life. And you write your signature. You write your signature on the paper that says that you are really here.
Presenting to vote, yeah.
Right. And then they give you a ballot, which you then have to take into a booth, and you mark up, and then you turn in. So,
and he's implying that all of these dead people are somehow getting more than one ballot, much less one ballot. And then people who have moved. Now, when people move for locations, they don't usually call back to their elections department and say, I moved, or send them any documentation. They just move.
Right. Yeah. We need to take a break. I just wanted to mention a couple more things. These were the off the top of my head things. I've seen a longer list. Theresa May's visit. Pipelines are back on the agenda. Eminent domain, you own property. Sorry. Or treaties with the government for Indian reservations. Sorry. Congress, apparently the Republicans don't have a replacement for Obamacare. Well, they do. it's called the Affordable Care Act, but that's what's bothering them. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. City Council candidate Omar Narvaez, who can turn the world on with his smile, is our guest. We'll be back with more right after this.
Well, I will, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
This is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. We're talking to Omar Narvaez. Will he make it after all? He's running for Dallas City Council.
He might just make it.
He might just make it after all, and we'll see. His opponent, he's running for the seat that is held by Mayor Pro Tem Monica Alonso, and we welcome her to come on the show also sometime before the election. We're talking mostly about the Big League week in Washington.
I was telling David before the show, it's like, I have to give Trump a backhanded compliment. He's only been in office. Has it been a full 2 weeks?
No, 9 days today.
And, he said he wanted to shake stuff up, and he certainly has. Not in a good way, but he definitely has. It's scary.
And Steve Bannon has said that he's a Leninist, that he himself is a Leninist.
Wow.
And who wants to destroy the state, every institution in the state, everything about the state. And by the state, he means the federal government.
Right.
And they're working at it every day, almost every hour. They're destroying it.
It's very
principled American fundamental values, core values.
And that's why they declared the media the opposition party this week.
Yes.
They did.
So
that's part of what happened under.
So let's do our job.
Well, you just wonder. I'm wondering, how is he able to do all of this? Because there's 3 different branches of government, and the president doesn't have that much power. How is he doing all this? Just through executive orders, or is he actually breaking laws?
He's doing both. He's actually doing both. And one of the great things that the ACLU is doing, and one of the great lines I heard last night when they talked about the stay in the Muslim ban situation from last night, was that the courts don't care who's president.
Mm-hmm. Right, they don't. They're not supposed to.
Right. And so I think by Americans stepping up, whether it's through the ACLU or plaintiffs through other organizations like Lambda Legal, others through the courts, there will be a check and balance as designed by the founders.
Exactly.
Okay, so Omar,
Congress isn't doing anything.
Omar, Lambda
Well, have
Legal.
they done anything?
No.
Lambda Legal has weighed in on several of these issues. Immigration is one of them, and that was right now there are a friend of mine just called just before we got here that they need a new round of people to help the demonstration go on. Talk about what that's about and what Lambda Legal's position and what are some of the cases that you're working on.
Absolutely. So with Lambda Legal, we, for the first Sunday or Saturday, I apologize, the first Saturday after the inauguration was the Women's March. And we saw folks across the entire nation gathered together,
yes.
Whether they were female identified or male identified. And it was huge. And what I loved was Lambda Legal. We were a part of it in every city that we have an office. And also we had people going to D.C. We were organizing our folks to make sure that we were part of that. And to say that we stand up for women's rights. We have a huge, really, really fantastic relationship with Planned Parenthood and other women's organizations because, again, we know that our rights as LGBT also are the rights of every other group that's out there. And now here's the next Saturday, and we have another huge protest, and it's happening at our airports. And we're standing. So yesterday, when the executive ban came out, we made sure that we were part of the hashtag on Facebook or Twitter was hashtag no ban no wall, and we made sure that all of our offices showed that we were in support, and we were standing with refugees, immigrants, and with Muslims because again there are LGBT people and people living with HIV in every single one of these segments of our community.
And Omar, you brought two things. Patty was down at the march in Austin last week. I was here at the Dallas march.
I was at the Dallas one as well.
Lerone was at the Garland march.
Hats?
No, I didn't.
I did.
I saw your pussy hat and I thought it looked fantastic. And
they're wonderful.
I think I even liked the picture on Facebook.
So, Patty, even though the march was on Saturday, you arrived on Sunday.
Whatever. Actually, we arrived Friday night.
But before we go on to immigration and some of the demonstrations that are going on about that, just tell us a little bit about what happened in Austin last week.
It was amazing. For one, we had lots of our signs, and we were all had our pussy hats on. And my sign had two sides on it. It said trans women or Texas women, and the other side said, if we're in the bathroom together and you know what genitals I have, you're the perv. Mm-hmm. So that was my sign. But we had lots of them. Aaron had one that says, this is not normal.
Right.
With a picture of Trump. But we got in to see Celia Israel, Representative Celia Israel from House District 50.
Were you able
Austin.
to convince her?
She was with us, and women in there were watching the C-SPAN airing of the D.C. March. And then as we went back outside, it was just a flood of people, and we got in line to go out of the Capitol grounds, and we got stuck there for 2 hours. And we were getting frustrated, but then we started getting, there was no self-service, but occasionally I got a text alert as to other people that said that they weren't able to march in D.C. because there was no room. You know, when you fill a space, you fill a space, and you can't move around. It's the tile game. And we began to hear that was our problem in Austin. They were
they were showing
people.
they were showing aerial shots of all the different cities, and when they showed Texas, I'm like, we came through, we represent it. I mean, it just looked amazing. I can imagine being there. Did it exceed your thoughts of how many people would show up?
Austin PD estimated that 37,000 would attend, and they said it was well over 100,000 that arrived. And so the group that was in the back, down Congress and such, and all the side streets were feeding it. They just had to like move and march. So we kind of moved in a circle, kind of like
you couldn't go in a line.
No, it was so packed, and the crowds were. It was just amazing. And I saw then later a report from NBC that said that Austin had the largest protest in the history of the state of Texas.
Wow.
The one thing that was interesting here, Victoria Niave, who was our guest 2 weeks ago, when she got up to speak at the march here, I mean, everybody seemed to know her, which is interesting for a freshman representative, but she got a lot of people out, and there were thousands here. The police estimate here was only about 2,000 at first, because that's about what fits on City Hall Plaza.
But I mean, she only did it in days.
But then, exactly. But then people started marching, and I moved down to the middle of Canton Street, which was halfway between the beginning and ending points. As far as you could see, like past 75, there were people, and they took up 2 lanes of traffic. And then all the way down to Washington Street, there were people. That was more than 2,000 people.
By the time they marched, 3 miles, and it was solid people.
People marching.
We're talking probably a good 12,000, 15,000 easily.
And these,
Dallas.
the real activists, the heavy-duty activists. Patti was down in Austin.
Right.
These were the people who, we're having a march here. We need to be part of it.
Right. Well, Ernie and I were originally planning to go to D.C., but we thought with everything going on and the ability to talk to fellow Texans about these horrific bills in the Texas House and the Texas Senate. We felt like we could have more impact by being in Austin, and so that's why we went. So
if you could just elaborate a little bit about what the march was about, because I was, just infuriated about some of the comments that you see on social media from other women who were, loud and proud against it, and I'm thinking this march is for you.
Well, there's the whole Phyllis Schlafly crowd. That think that women ought to submit to their husbands and just stay at home and clean house and, raise their kids. And I guess...
And I'm right there with her.
And then there's the rest of us who are independent women. Thank you, Mary Tyler Moore. First woman on TV who was a single woman over the age of 30 working in a career, not married. So the rest of us were out there on all kinds of issues. We were out there about immigration. We were out there about the denial of science by this president, and in our state house too. About, of course, women's reproductive freedom. about people with disabilities and rights that they're being denied. There's a whole discussion nationally about the rights of children in schools who have disabilities and what kind of education they're getting. It was across the board. It was just an amazing thing. I saw men, lots and lots of men, lots of pussy hats, but lots of men. And lots of kids, and kids were there really proud to be there, and they were holding up signs that they made, about everyone should be treated equally.
One thing about the march here, when they were talking about LGBT rights, the entire crowd, didn't matter who, cheered.
Yep.
Everybody was for equality. Everybody, it didn't matter which group, gay groups, Hispanic groups, immigrant groups, documented, undocumented.
It was so
immigrants.
Beautiful. It was so beautiful to see everybody just together and fighting for each other and standing for each other, and not, like all of a sudden with, sometimes I've been to some rallies where they mention one group and there's cheers, but it's just a portion. And, and even, y'all know I'm a big old Texas Democrat, and there's times at state conventions when this back in the day when LGBT rights would be talked about, and it was just the few LGBT people in the room would cheer. But now it's like you go and everybody erupts. So yeah.
I really date that back to marriage equality. We got married, and nothing happened.
Yeah,
other than we got married, and we file our taxes together.
Nothing that they predicted happened. I mean, things happened. People were able to buy homes. They were able to get Social Security benefits.
Right.
I mean, when things happened.
Health insurance.
I mean, things.
Nothing happened to them.
Right.
Nothing happened to them.
Didn't destroy heterosexual marriage.
The sanctity of the heterosexual marriage did not get affected.
Exactly.
And if you did lose your marriage because of somebody's same-sex marriage, then there probably was an issue within your own marriage.
It wasn't that strong
then
to
you
begin
can't
with.
blame
Right. It wasn't that strong to
If
begin
people
with.
you don't even know can kill it.
Right.
But this way you could blame it on somebody else.
Exactly.
Okay, so one of the groups that got lots of cheers were immigrants, were people who are refugees. And right now at DFW Airport, there's a demonstration going on before the show.
Yes.
I got a message from somebody. We need reinforcements out here because we're exhausted.
Aaron is out there right now.
Aaron is out there.
Aaron. I saw Kenan Brown was out there. So was Lee Doherty.
Eric Folkerth, who's been on our show from North Haven. He was out there.
He was out there late into the night.
Yeah. So anyway, what's going on with that you've heard, Omar? Being a city council candidate, I'm sure you're briefed on national issues like this.
Absolutely, it's the first thing that happens. From what I know, just friends commenting, I know that there's a lot of elected officials out there, a lot of different people. I know Victoria, State Representative Victoria Narvaez was out there yesterday evening. So was Congressman Mark Vesey, as well as County Judge Clay Jenkins, were some of the few people that I had already seen.
And they're Terminal D, if you want to go.
Right, Terminal D, outside of 22, outside of Gate 22,
right.
And they're right inside. And I was told that there's plenty of parking still at the gate right outside. I mean, you might pay a little bit, but
here's what Erin
you won't
did.
have a hard
she
time.
went to Mockingbird Station, got on the orange line. That dead ends at Terminal A.
Right.
At Gate A10, you get out, you go on Terminal Link on the bus, take you to D22, you're done.
Yep.
Then you can come around back.
So for $5 round trip.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right after the show as well.
Do you need me to drop you at the station?
No, I've got my car.
Oh, you have your car. Okay.
Can we just tell the audience, the listeners, what exactly happened? This ban seemed to come out of nowhere. And what countries are they banned from? Because it's not a complete Middle East ban.
No, it's not.
No, it's only certain ones.
Exactly. It's just certain ones.
I'll tell you real quick. It's 7 countries. 7 countries from which no terrorists have attacked America.
Exactly.
None. But the ones who have produced terrorists who've attacked us and killed Americans are not on the list.
Well, Reince Priebus addressed that this morning. He said, well, maybe we need to expand the list.
Really?
Yeah.
But it turns out that those same countries are where Trump has business interests.
No, that couldn't be.
You don't say.
No, it couldn't
Yeah.
be.
No.
Interesting.
Wow.
So he conveniently left off the ones where, he's doing business. But everybody else, all those other countries, they got to be banned.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's something that I think that when you're out we as Americans, we as people that, and even those that aren't Americans but have come to this country and are looking to be in this country to stay, we come together when discrimination happens. We're not, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat and act like discrimination doesn't happen in our country. It happens everywhere, but when major discrimination like this, and it's happening to refugees, immigrants, and Muslims, I mean, they're being targeted, and it's beautiful to see Americans standing up, regardless of their faith, their religion, the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, and they're standing up saying, no, we will not stand for this as Americans, and we will not stand for this as human beings. And, I remember there was, during the campaign trail, Trump was saying something about a Muslim registry that he wanted to, and I know that they're looking at it, how they create this, and I remember people talking about it, and I was one of the folks that stood up and said, you know what, if you put a Muslim registry, then sign me up.
Yep,
I will sign up.
My synagogue has voted to sign up.
Absolutely.
Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright said she will be signing that list and signing up and being registered.
Patty, one of the countries where there's a ban is Libya, right?
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
In Libya.
Okay, Lerone, so what do we need to do? Report her to the Trump administration?
You didn't tell me before the show about Patty, where Patty grew up.
We were talking about this last night. I don't know anyone as far as extended family or my circle of friends or even their relatives that is Muslim. And this is still wrong. So you don't have to be part of something to stand up for it. And that's like you were saying, Omar, that's the beautiful thing about it. It's wrong. It is wrong.
Okay, see, and I know countless people who are Muslim.
Well, somebody who's been on our show a number of times, Rafiq Saleh.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, Rafiq is.
Rafiq is.
Yes, that's right.
Do you know a more... Can you imagine somebody who would freak out more than Rafiq if there was a terrorist incident?
Right. Oh, my gosh, right. Rafiq is...
It's the most mild-mannered person I think I have ever met in my life.
Right. Yeah. And I just saw him yesterday. We were out at the store, and so hi, Rafiq, if you're listening. But
I can't think of a better example of somebody who we want in this country.
Absolutely.
Because he's industrious. He has started businesses here.
Absolutely.
He is just the sweetest, most caring person who would do anything for anybody. Anyway, we need to take a break. We need to take a break. This is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, who's from Libya, and our guest is Omar Narvaez, and he might just make it after all.
Hi, I'm Nell Gaither, and I listen to Lambda Weekly on Knon 89.3.
And you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the Libyan terrorist Patti Fink and Lerone Landis, who's from this country.
I am.
But last night at the airport, there was an 80-year-old woman in a wheelchair from Iran, spoke very little English, visiting her kids and grandkids, and had not been allowed to speak to an attorney from 9 a.m. in the morning until after 10 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of country are we?
What kind of threat do they think she is?
An 80-year-old woman in a wheelchair. Yeah. There's also an 18-month-old baby that they detained.
Babies.
Really?
Yeah.
Just and they're detained. They're not allowed to leave this confined area. Inside, INS at the airport. I mean,
what's scarier is that some of the folks that are detained across the country had green cards.
Yes.
They're residents, permanent residents of this country.
They backed off on that portion of it this morning.
Right, but I heard about that, but they were still American permanent residents stopped, and how many of them are still continuing to be stopped because the folks that are the detainers haven't received word, or they need it to be clarified, or not sure what this all means. There's also a stay on the executive order, but they're still detaining people at the airport.
So they're ignoring it?
No, they're not sure what the stay actually means. I mean, it was a legal decision, but from a judge in Brooklyn, he didn't put a stay on the entire order.
She.
Oh, she? Okay.
This judge was a woman.
Okay.
Thank you, Patty.
And she was
and Donnelly.
And she was an Obama appointee.
Yes.
So she put a stay on this. Lerone, women judges. Can you imagine? That'll end.
But the ACLU explained it last night on television. The attorney from the ACLU who got the ruling stated that those with green cards, those with work visas, those with other visitor visas, any valid authorization to be in this country was ordered to be allowed to enter the country.
And you're an entry-level INS official who meets people, who looks at the passports at the airport, and you know that the president said this, you know that a judge said that. What do you do?
Yep.
Well, you can tell Steve Bannon wrote this whole order, and they didn't coordinate with any agency in the federal government.
As a matter of fact, the governor,
before they issued it and made it effective.
The governor of Washington had a really good press conference, and he was saying, this has just thrown the entire country into chaos because nobody was warned. None of the officials at the airport were warned. It's just they found out practically like we did.
And I'm going to go with that question you just asked, David, is you listen to the judge. Remember when marriage equality happened and we had JP judges, elected officials that weren't sure what they were supposed to do because, their state constitution said this or this said that and da-da-da-da. It's like, no, you listen to the United States Supreme Court. They have made a ruling and it has come down, and that's who you listen to. And that's because we have a check and balance. And the president did something, the court has overruled.
But in this case, the president did something, and a lower court overruled it. So, and did not overrule everything, and they're busy at work.
Well, here's the thing: the ACLU said that the judge said that the reason she gave the stay was because it appeared to her that they would win on the merits at trial when the motions were presented in full. So the emergency stay she granted because she saw that they would probably win, that they have a valid case.
And I'm just saying, the person on the front lines there, while they're busy, juggling 5 or 6 planes of, jumbo jets that have just flown in at the same time, they didn't have time to read those additional orders that came in during the time that they're there. And what do you do? I'm not making really excuses for them. I'm just saying I'm seeing how this happened.
This is where the head of those agencies needs to issue something that folds out to every airport. They get a very clear directive from their chain of command.
Right.
And that didn't happen.
Right.
That did not happen because that's not the way this administration in the first 8 days of its existence operates or thinks.
And I think that's a big difference when you go from being the CEO of a boardroom to the leader of the free world, and you don't realize that you don't just get to say this and that, and that tagline of "you're fired." It doesn't work that way in government. There's processes and rules you have to abide by, and that's
because
why
we're a free nation based on laws.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I have a perfect example of that. We're a free country that there are certain things that you have to go through, whereas a company, president of the company says we're doing this, that's the way it is. We have a mayor. I really like Mike, but he had a lot of trouble his first year or so because he was so used to being the executive of Pizza Hut that when he said, we're going to make pizza with twice as much cheese, they did it. And when he came to the city council and he said, we're going to do such and such, and 14 other people said, no, we're not.
Right. All you need is 8.
He had trouble
and if 8
getting
said,
used
no,
to
you're
that.
not going to do it, then you can't do it.
And I think he's done a good job of figuring out the difference between governing and leading a company.
I just have to say this, because an organization I'm affiliated with put out a warning on him during his first election and did not endorse him for his second term. And there was the whole hoopla about the marriage pledge. And so there was that, but we were really concerned that he would put business interests above civil rights. And I think that you could say that too about our current president, but we were concerned about it with the mayor. And I have to say, he has really come around. He has really worked in terms of homelessness, and he's not up for re-election. He can't have another term. He's worked on homelessness. When we had that horrific shooting of Dallas police officers, in the city. He was there, and he was genuine, and he was authentic. And his press conference yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, he called lies lies. He used the word lies many times about this administration and the purpose of this ban, and how ridiculous it was, and really showed his human side and the need for human empathy in this situation, because we care about these people.
When kids were coming across the border from Central America, he's the one who stepped up with Clay Jenkins and said, well, we can take a certain number of them.
Exactly.
I mean, it was a very genuine thing.
He's really transformed how he operates as mayor of the city, and he said, this isn't who we are. We're better than this. This is, and I was just like crying. Aaron and I were listening to this holding a phone, watching the press conference.
Took a while for him to learn to do that, and to be that
and he's
person.
Good at it now.
Yeah,
and we are better than what's happening right now in our country. We are better than this. And when did we become the country that kicks people out and won't let you in? We're the country that
Friday night,
no, exactly. No. And we have always been the country that lets people in. I mean, we've had our issues in the past, don't get me wrong, but we have become better than what's happening right now, and that's why I'm so proud of the people that are down there at DFW Airport and other airports across the country, and and I'm cheering them on, saying don't stop until every single detainee has been released.
There's been a few tweets from individuals saying that they now regret voting for Trump because their loved one can't get in the country even though they have a green card. And I'm just kind of thinking, well, why are you acting surprised? He did say he was going to do this. And
because Trump voters said that they liked how he was saying things and didn't believe what he was saying.
They took it seriously, not literally.
And Democrats took him real seriously and very literally, and he's doing what he said he was going to do.
Exactly, he's doing what he said he was going to do.
Okay, so a couple of other things that he did this week. On Holocaust Remembrance Day, he issued a statement. For the first time, a president issued a statement about the Holocaust that had nothing to do with Jews, because it was written by Steve Bannon, who's a Nazi. And I don't use that. I don't throw that word around lightly. But he
really is.
He's a neo-Nazi, is what he is, right-wing fascist. They're proposed, and on that day is the day, Holocaust Remembrance Day, where so many people were killed because they couldn't get into this country or other countries. Nobody would take them. We're rejecting immigrants. So let's go to the border wall or fence or whatever it's going to be.
Let's just note, though, that the Muslim ban was done on Friday on Holocaust Remembrance Day.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The same day. The same day. Yeah. He's, talking about the Holocaust and the excuse for not mentioning Jews. Well, my son-in-law's Jewish. That's nice. Okay, so the border wall. They're proposing one way that Mexicans will pay for it is with a 20% tax.
No, we would pay for it.
We would pay for it.
Right.
With Mexican products coming into this country.
So guac is extra already. Now imagine 20% extra.
Right.
I don't know what Texans are going to do because we like our guacamole.
We like it. We love it.
And I'm one who likes avocado on everything. So you slice some avocado on
the
sandwich.
The answer to that from the Trump administration.
I'm gonna be broke.
The answer from the Trump administration was no. Avocados come from California.
But what about the part? I mean, one of the things that I read a business article about the things that would be affected. And a lot of them are parts for manufacturing in the United States, and so they may do the manufacturing and the factory and the jobs are here, but they use parts manufactured from other places around the world. Well, sometimes it's because of materials that are available and resources, natural resources that are used. If certain metals are available in a certain country, they make the part. And that happens a lot with Mexico. A lot of these parts come in, and it's going to jack the prices up for us.
I heard one analysis of that said if they're forced to bring some of that manufacturing back to the United States, it will be 100% automated.
Yep.
Right.
Which will not only create no jobs, that 100% automation will then lap over into the production that we are doing, and we'll actually lose jobs as a result of doing it that way.
And some of the economists have also stated that with this, if this comes to fruition and becomes the way it is, that inflation will begin. and it could be astronomical, the amount of inflation that increases that could happen in our country, and we wouldn't be prepared for it because our wages aren't going up. Our wages haven't gone up in how long?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been well over a decade. So now try to imagine somebody making $10, $12 an hour that can barely afford an apartment in the city of Dallas, who now has extra 20% taxes on certain goods. Even discount stores won't be discounted anymore.
And when I said, when I was saying facetiously that the Trump administration said no avocados come from California, well, let's say half of the avocados we use come from California and the rest come from Mexico. If you shut off the supply from Mexico, the 50% drop in supply is going to mean that even the California avocados are going to go way up and skyrocket in price, skyrocket. And that's not just for avocados. That's just a simple example. It's everything that comes from Mexico.
So what needs to happen for that to actually become a realistic thing, that the process for that wall to start being built?
Oh, he's issued the executive order that he wants it done. But remember the very first day when President Obama came into office, they did the inauguration and they went to lunch in the Rotunda, and then he went and signed the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act. And then he signed an executive order to close Gitmo, to close the prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And we know where that went.
Right.
So he's done one of those about building the wall. But Congress still has to authorize the money. He doesn't get to just access
or the Congress of
dollars.
Mexico has to authorize the money.
Or that.
And think of what a blunder that was. You issued that executive order to build this wall that I don't think is ever going to happen, which I'm highly against. But number two is then one of your first state visits was going to be the president of Mexico. I mean, that's supposed to be this coming week. And so what does the president of Mexico do?
He cancels
We're not
on
coming.
him.
We're not coming.
But do you know who is coming?
And now some of the other, and I'm sorry, but some of the countries that were banning immigrants and refugees coming from, those countries have already now starting to ban Americans from coming to their countries.
Yep.
Do you know who is coming? And he doesn't have an appointment with Trump, but he's hoping to speak to some people here about this immigration ban. Is King Hussein of Jordan? He's coming to just point out how this is going to increase terrorism. This is going to make everything that he's doing to try to work with the United States more difficult.
And that's something that Hillary said during the Hillary and President Obama both were saying during the campaign, was something like this, a ban on Muslim countries, you're going to give fuel to those radical folks that want to do us harm. You're going to give them another reason, a very radical reason, for them to do something to us.
Oh yeah, this is going to breed terrorists that did not exist before. Mm-hmm. It's nuts, and it's not who we are. This is not who we are. And if the folks out there punching the air and going, yeah, he's my president, get this done, really have no capacity for human empathy.
You know, I'd like to point out what this illegal immigration is. Okay, illegal immigration is basically coming to this country without the documents. Lerone, when your family immigrated to this country, what kind of documents did they have?
It was silver chains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's about the only documents my family had. Because do you know why? When I had talked to him a lot about this because I found it fascinating. When my mother's father came to this country, he didn't have a passport or a visa. Do you know why? There was no such thing.
Right. They didn't exist.
They didn't exist.
Well, and just so you know, and it's not, when people come to this country, and if you want to say illegal immigrant or they're undocumented, what happens, the vast majority, nearly 65-70% of undocumented people in this country actually got here legally. They had a visa of some kind. What happens is they overstay their visas, and then they're undocumented. So they're not. There's this huge thing that people think, oh, they're crossing the border or you're sneaking into the country. No, they got in the proper channels. They waited in whatever non-existent lines there really are. But what happens is then they stay and they don't go back because of, for whatever reason. And that's what really is the cause of a lot of what's going on here, is how do we help these folks, like DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Those are the young people that were brought through no fault of their own. Their parents brought them, and they're undocumented. And we still don't know what President Trump's going to do with that executive order that President Obama had signed. And I can tell you that I have tons of friends that qualified under that are working in hospitals, law firms, engineering firms.
And all they know is this country.
And they only know this country. They wake up when they were going to school every day and they said the Pledge of Allegiance. They sing the Star Spangled Banner. They wear red, white, and blue. And all of a sudden now they're finally able to work and contribute to what they were really trained to do. We educated them. We did everything to help them become a true person of society that's giving back to our country, and all of a sudden this president could easily, with the swipe of a pen, say, too bad, so sad, no more, round them up, get them out. And that's just
crazy.
We are just about out of time. We have half a minute. Is there anything special Lambda Legal is working on right now, or are you just kind of watching everything that's going on?
Right now we're watching everything that's going on at Lambda Legal. What I will tell you is that we are in good with the ACLU, whatever help they need with this stuff that's going on, anything locally. And if anybody feels they've been discriminated against or they have questions, legal questions, they can call our legal help desk at 214-219-8585 and leave a voicemail on the legal help desk, and somebody will give you a call back. And that's for any issue that is LGBT related or people living with HIV related.
And Omar, good luck on your city council race. He's running for City Council District 6. And the election May 6th, Monica Alonso is she has not signed. She's not filed yet. If she does file, welcome to come on the show. And this certainly is an invitation to her to come on the show. Next week's guest is Candy Markham. We will see you then with more Lambda Week.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.